Truck driver finds two twin girls abandoned on the road. Years later, he was accused of... It was a silent dawn, with gray skies and humid air. The BR-267 cut through the interior of the country like a lonely vein, with few lights and no soul in sight. Jefferson, a 62-year-old truck driver, was traveling after a late delivery. He was tired, but used to the silence of the road. He had been his companion for decades. Suddenly, the headlights of his truck illuminated two small figures on the side of the road. They were so small that from a distance they looked like bags or forgotten objects. But something in their movement made him brake sharply. With his heart racing, Jefferson got out of the truck and walked cautiously towards the figures. The scene, he found, made his chest tighten. Two identical girls, around 5 years old, huddled under a thin, torn blanket. Both barefoot, with scraped knees and eyes wide with fear. Her hair was dirty and her lips purple from the cold. They trembled, trying to protect each other like two injured birds in the middle of the storm. "Hey, it's okay. Calm down, it's okay. My name is Jefferson," he said, slowly bending down so as not to scare them even more. The girls cringed. One of them began to cry softly. The other reached out, but without letting go of her sister. They were hungry and exhausted. Jefferson took out of his pocket a cereal bar and a thermos with hot chocolate, something he always carried in the early hours. He tore the package and offered it gently. Gradually, the girls accepted. The food seemed to give them a shred of security. "Where are your parents?" he asked in a low voice. Neither answered. They just lowered their eyes, as if they didn't even understand the question. The smallest, in a weak voice, only said, "We were in the car. Now we're here." Jefferson felt his stomach turn. The father's instinct he never had made him make an immediate decision. He wrapped the girls in a blanket from the back seat of the truck and carefully accommodated them in the ride. He turned on the heater. The truck, which had already crossed the entire country, would now be a refuge. As he drove to the next gas station, Jefferson looked in the rearview mirror. The two were asleep, hugging, too innocent to understand that they had been discarded like garbage in the middle of a highway. But for Jefferson, from that moment on, they would no longer be alone. The clock was 3:42 a.m. when Jefferson pulled his truck over to the yard of a gas station on the side of the highway. The place was mostly empty, except for a car parked next to Pump 4 and a gas station attendant sitting in a plastic chair, dozing off under the dim light of the sign. Jefferson turned off the engine slowly, trying not to wake the girls who were sleeping exhausted on the ride. He covered the small bodies better with the blanket and went down in silence. As he approached the counter, the gas station attendant raised his sleepy eyes. "Good night, or rather, good morning, right?" said Jefferson with a restrained smile. "Good morning, partner. Do you need to fill up?" "Not yet, but I need help. I think I've found something serious." Jefferson recounted in a quiet, paused voice what had happened. He said he had found two girls on the side of the road, scared, cold, and hungry. The gas station attendant, a thin man named Sergio, gradually woke up until his eyes widened. "Wait, did you say it's two girls, twin, small?" he asked now with a serious expression. "Yes, they're in my truck. Why?" Sergio immediately got up and ran to a small security room. In a matter of seconds, he pulled the monitor with images from the camera that looked out onto the road. "Look at this here. It was about 2 hours ago. In the video, in black and white and low resolution, you could clearly see a silver car pulling over to the side of the road, very close to the entrance to the gas station. From the back seat, someone opens the door and pushes two small figures out. The car then takes off, disappearing into the darkness of the road." Jefferson froze. His hand squeezed the counter tightly. They threw them away." "Yes, I saw it from afar. I thought it was some misunderstanding. But I didn't think that it was this." Sergio, visibly shaken, added, "I was going to chase it, but the car disappeared quickly. And I wasn't sure what I saw. Until now." Jefferson was speechless for a moment. The chest felt crushed inside. He turned slowly toward the truck and looked out the windows. The girls were still asleep, oblivious to the cruel truth of what they had just survived. It was at that moment that Jefferson felt it. He felt that his mission with those children had changed completely. It was no longer an act of compassion. Now it was responsibility. It was justice. It was destiny. He returned to the counter, his voice firmer than ever. "Can you save this video? I'm going to need that. And thank you, really." Sergio nodded. "They're lucky you passed by, buddy," Jefferson replied with teary eyes, but without hesitation. Maybe it wasn't luck. Maybe it was purpose. In that empty gas station in the middle of the night, 2 lives were about to change forever. And Jefferson? He was no longer just a truck driver. It was becoming something those girls never had, a real father. Back in the truck, with the video saved on his cell phone and his head boiling, Jefferson sat in the driver's seat and remained silent for a few minutes. The engine off, the dawn motionless, and the only sound was the faint snoring of the 2 girls huddled under the blanket in the back seat. He watched them in the rearview mirror. They slept hugging, their faces relaxed for the first time in hours. It was as if the cold of the road and the abandonment had been for a moment forgotten. Jefferson took his hand to the steering wheel and squeezed it hard. A whirlwind of thoughts ran through his mind. What if no one had passed by? What if it was a runaway truck? What if someone with bad intentions had stopped in his place? He took a deep breath. The lump in my throat tightened. At the age of 62, she had never had children. He saw his life go by on wheels, always on the road, sleeping in cabins and stopping at gas stations. A solitary, simple, but honest existence. And now 2 girls who could barely speak their names stood there, silently in their truck. "I'm not going to leave them, God. I'm not going," he murmured, looking up at the sky through the window. At dawn, he took the girls to a police station in the region. But the answer was harsh. No documentation, no evidence that there was abandonment, and no record of disappearance. "We can't do anything now, just record the report." Jefferson, indignant, replied, "So what are you going to do? Leave them on the road again? In some shelter, not knowing if they are going to separate?" "The 2? The policeman hesitated. Jefferson looked firmly at him. "They have me, and that's enough." That same week, Jefferson sought legal advice from an NGO in the neighboring city. He got a volunteer lawyer and filed a request for provisional custody for proven abandonment, using the camera video as initial evidence. During this time, he followed with the girls, affectionately calling them Nina and Leah. He bought new clothes, got a car seat for the truck, and improvised a small space for them to travel safely. At each stop, the girls got something new: a sketchbook, an ice cream, or just a smile. Nina began to call him Jeff in a shy voice. Leah preferred Daddy because she found it funnier. He laughed, he cried in secret, and he promised, "They won't. Remember the pain. They will remember who stayed." Months later, provisional custody was granted. Jefferson cried in front of the judge, shameless. "I may not have their blood, doctor, but I have a heart." And that's how, for the first time in his life, he became a father. 2 years have passed since that dawn on the road. Jefferson's life changed completely, and he didn't care one bit. The old wooden house he had inherited from his father, in a quiet neighborhood in the countryside, gained a new sound: child's laughter. Nina and Leah now had rooms decorated with star stickers, dolls lined up on shelves, and colorful backpacks hanging behind the door. The loneliness that once dominated the home has been replaced by life, mess, and affection. Jefferson still worked as a truck driver, but now he only made short trips. She set up a small local delivery business to be closer to the girls. The time he earned was used for something he never imagined in his life: taking his daughters to school, making breakfast with crooked pancakes, and helping with homework. Even though he didn't understand much of the subjects, the girls flourished. Nina showed impressive analytical intelligence. Since she was a little girl, she loved stacking books and playing office with the teddy bears as patients. Leah was more sensitive, empathetic, She was moved to see injured animals on the street or helped classmates who were sad. The two had one thing in common, a desire to care for others. One night, in her pajamas and her hair down, Leah looked at Jefferson and asked, "Dad, when we grow up, can we be a doctor?" He swallowed. The chest tightened, the voice breaking. "Of course you can, daughter. You will be the best doctors in this country." And they believed. And so did he, with the support of teachers, scholarships, and the strength of a solid emotional foundation. The girls advanced. They shone in high school, passed the entrance exam, and entered one of the most respected colleges in the country. Jefferson, already with very gray hair, vibrated with each bulletin, with each seminar presentation, with each stage overcome. He was that father who waited with a sign at the airport, with tears in his eyes when he saw his daughters wearing lab coats for the first time. Nina specialized in neurology, Leah in pediatrics. Together, they became a reference in the medical field. They were called to congresses, interviews, nationally recognized as the twins of medicine. But not everything would be rosy. Right at the height of their achievements, something from the past, something they barely knew existed, was about to knock on the door. It was a sunny Sunday morning when Nina and Leah were returning from a lecture on child health in underserved communities. They were radiant, proud of everything they had achieved, but when they got home, they found Jefferson sitting on the couch with his face tense, holding a white envelope with trembling hands. "What's wrong, Dad?" asked Leah, already sensing that something was wrong. Jefferson was slow to respond. Then he held out the envelope. "You arrived early today," someone came with a note, from a couple named Marcelo and Denise. The girls opened the envelope with growing curiosity. Inside, there was a handwritten letter. "Daughters, we know it is too late, but we are your true parents. We need to talk. We had no choice when you were little. We were going through difficulties, but we never stopped loving you. Please give us a chance." They signed with tears drawn in the margins. A phone number and the address of a humble neighborhood were written in the footer. Nina and Leah were astonished. Biological country? They had never delved into it. Jefferson always said that they were found on the road, yes. But he never wanted to hurt them with details. His focus was on their present and future, not on their dark past. Now that past was knocking on the door, and with a rehearsed story. "They say they were forced to give you up for adoption, that they had no way to raise two small children, that life was hard," said Jefferson in a firm voice, trying to remain calm. Leah stood up, confused. "But why now? Just now that we appeared? On TV? Just now that we have become news?" Jefferson hesitated. "I don't know, daughters, but I want you to know, whatever you decide to do, I will be with you." The next day, Nina, always more rational, decided to call the number, the biological law. Parents arranged to meet in a small cafe. They arrived with their heads down, shabby clothes, red eyes. They told a rehearsed story. That they were threatened, that they were sick, that they tried to get their daughters back years later, but were prevented. They told everything, minus the truth. They didn't say they threw them out of a car. They did not mention the video, abandonment, and much less did they say that now, bankrupt and sick, they saw in their daughters a possible salvation. The girls left there confused, shaken. Some of them wanted to believe. Part wanted to escape. That night, Jefferson was waiting for them with dinner on the table and his worried look. They said who loved us, that they were forced to leave us, Nina said, looking at the plate with no appetite. Jefferson took a deep breath. "Daughters, I never wanted you to grow up with hatred, but now you are women, and they deserve to know the truth." It was then that Jefferson showed something kept for years. The video from the station's security camera, saved on a pen drive inside a drawer. They watched in silence, and when the image of the car speeding and the two girls being thrown on the asphalt appeared, Leah covered her mouth. Nina let out a muffled sob. "They didn't give you, they discarded you." The silence that followed was absolute. But there was something new about him, the breaking of an illusion, and it was just the beginning of what was to come. A week after being reunited with her biological parents, the doorbell rang. It was early, and Jefferson was still preparing breakfast. Nina opened the door with a distracted smile, but her face froze at the sight of two bailiffs. "Mr. Jefferson Lima?" asked one of them. "It's me. You are being notified. There is a lawsuit in his name. Kidnapping and misappropriation of a minor. You are expected to appear at the hearing next week." Jefferson received the envelope with trembling hands. His daughters, upon hearing the word kidnapping, ran to him. "What's going on, Dad?" asked Leah, already teary-eyed. He looked at them, his dignity intact but his heart broken. "They want to take you away from me." The news spread fast. The press uncovered the process. Headlines began to emerge on news portals. Truck driver is accused of kidnapping twins he raised as daughters. Biological parents ask for justice and claim to have been victims of a flawed system. The narrative constructed by Marcelo and Denise was clear. They were in crisis. They left the girls with a relative, and, when they returned, they had disappeared. They never denounced it out of shame, and now they wanted to repair the past. They claimed that Jefferson took possession of the children without authorization, and that he used the abandonment to benefit himself emotionally. It was disgusting. But legally, the complaint was serious. Nina and Leah were devastated. Social networks exploded. Thousands of comments divided. Some people called for Jefferson's arrest. Others, who had been following the story since the time of the interviews with the doctors, fiercely defended the trucker father. Meanwhile, Jefferson kept his cool. He hired a lawyer, went to the court, handed over everything he had: the video of the post, the records of the provisional custody, and the adoption documents. But even with evidence, the process continued, and the date of the hearing was set. On to the eve of the trial. Jefferson sat with Nina and Leah on the porch of their house, watching the sunset. "Daughters, if all this ends badly, I just want you to know every second with you was the greatest blessing that life has given me. I don't regret anything." Leah grabbed his arm tightly. Nina leaned against her shoulder. "You're not going to face this alone. You are our father, and tomorrow, the truth will come out." They didn't know it yet, but an unexpected witness was about to enter the scene, and on the day of the trial, no one was prepared for what was to come. The forum was packed. It was a gray morning, but inside the courtroom the air was thick, charged with anticipation. Reporters outside, cameras ready to pick up any reaction. Inside, the silence was almost absolute. In the first row, Jefferson sat with an upright posture, but his gaze was full of pain. Next to him, Nina and Leah, already in white coats, symbolizing everything they had achieved. On the other side of the court, Marcelo and Denise, the biological parents, with cold looks and well-dressed lawyers. The judge began the session firmly. "We are here to investigate the accusation of kidnapping made by Messrs. Marcelo and Denise against the defendant, Jefferson Lima." The prosecutor began with a theatrical speech, appealing to the pain of parents and the sacred right of the family of origin. The couple's lawyer even said that Jefferson took advantage of the situation to take the girls away from their real parents and promote himself on top of that. The room murmured. Some people shook their heads in revolt. But then, "The time has come for the defense." Jefferson's lawyer stood up calmly and said, "Your Excellency, the defendant is being accused of a crime he never committed. On the contrary, Mr. Jefferson Lima saved 2 lives that night, and we have proof of that. We would like to show a video recorded by a security camera at the gas station where it all began." The judge nodded. The screen was positioned, the lights dimmed. Absolute silence. The image appeared, black and white, shaky. A car stops on the side of the road. The door opens. 2 small figures are pushed out, and the car takes off at high speed, leaving the girls alone on the road. The room held its breath. The judge bowed. The prosecutor was silent. Marcelo and Denise turned pale. The video was paused at the exact moment when the girls try to run after the car, tripping. The zoom focused on Leah's face, still a child, crying. The lawyer then turned to the court. "This is not abandonment. This is human waste. And the man sitting there didn't kidnap anyone. He saved what you, yes you, decided to throw away. The words echoed like thunder in the room. Marcelo tried to argue, raising his voice. This video can be edited. That doesn't prove anything. It doesn't show our faces. But it was too late. The judge asked for silence and ordered the forensic examination of the video, which was confirmed as legitimate and unedited. Before closing, the defense asked to summon a surprise witness who had asked to testify at the last minute. The judge allowed it. A woman entered the room. She was a former neighbor of the couple from years ago. I want to tell the truth. They not only abandoned these girls, as they said it would be better this way because they would be a lot of work. And now that you've seen who they've become, they said they were going to seek what is rightfully theirs. But it's not for love, it's for money. The courtroom erupted in murmurs. The judge slammed the gavel and interrupted. Order in the room. I will pronounce the sentence in the next session, but there are serious indications here. And honestly, there is no doubt about who was the real father in this story. Jefferson lowered his head. Nina and Leah hugged him in silence. For the first time in weeks, he took a deep breath. But there was still the outcome. In the second session of the trial, the courtroom was even more crowded. The repercussion of the video had taken over social networks. The medical twins, once known only for their academic achievements, were now a symbol of an injustice about to be undone. But the morning held another revelation. When the judge opened the session, the defense attorney stood up with an urgent request. Your Excellency, the defense would like to record the testimony of a second witness who came forward voluntarily after the repercussion of the video. The judge hesitated, but accepted. A middle-aged woman entered. He wore simple clothes and walked slowly. Her name, Jessica Montero, former employee of Marcelo and Denise's biological family. She positioned herself in front of the court, took a deep breath and said in a trembling voice, I worked with the couple for 4 years. I was Nina and Leah's nanny, until the day they disappeared. Silence, she continued. I knew something had happened that night. I saw the couple leave with the girls. They came back alone, and they said in no uncertain terms, if these girls are really as smart as they say, someone will end up catching them. After, they never spoke of it again. Until now. The prosecution tried to interrupt, but she raised her hand. And there's more. I heard Marcelo on the phone a few days ago saying that if he managed to get closer to the girls, he would sue the truck driver and ask for compensation for the stolen time. They never wanted the girls back, just what they built. The impact was devastating. People were crying in the gallery. The judge was visibly moved, and then came the sentence. After analyzing the evidence, testimonies, and documents, this court recognizes that Mr. Jefferson Lima is the legitimate legal responsible for Nina and Leah. The accusation of kidnapping is unfounded and is an attempt at judicial manipulation. The judge then turned to Marcelo and Denise. In addition to the false accusation, there is evidence of abandonment of an incapacitated person, attempted extortion, and aggravated defamation. This court sentences them to 15 years in prison. Marcelo collapsed. Denise screamed, saying that it wasn't fair, but no one believed them anymore, not even his own daughters. Jefferson stood up with difficulty. His hands trembled, his eyes watered. Nina and Leah hugged him on both sides. The audience gave them a standing ovation. It was the sound of justice, of truth, of the love that overcame abandonment. On the way out of the courthouse, a reporter asked Jefferson, "Do you have anything to say to the country?" He looked into the camera, holding his daughter's hands, and said, "It doesn't matter where a child comes from. It matters who decides to stay. I stayed, and I would do it all over again. There are people who put you in the world, and others who choose to be in your world." Jefferson did not have the same blood, but he had what many parents forget to have: the courage to love. He didn't just save 2 girls on that road, he saved humanity itself. Because being a father, it is a decision. and he decided to stay when no one else was. If this story moved you, share it with someone who chose to stay. Comment here. Who is the person who was family to you, even without blood ties? And if you believe that love is what builds a life, and not the last name on paper, like it, subscribe, and send this story to the world. Because sometimes all a child needs, it is from a heart that refuses to leave.